Welcome to the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. Your guide on this journey is Amy Sylvis. If you're ready for the secrets to an abundant life, hit that subscribe button now, and let's get started.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. I am your host, Amy Sylvis, and I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode with my dear friend, Gunnar Esiason. I have to admit to you, I got so excited to record this episode with him that I left out some context that I think will be important and useful to you as you listen to the episode. So I'm going back and recording this so that we make sure what Gunnar and I talk about has a bit more information for you. So the first important part and why I got so excited recording the episode is that Gunnar has been my friend for the better part of 15 years. We both live with something called cystic fibrosis. Even though we're about 10 years apart, we've had similar journeys, and as you can imagine, have connected on this level of living with this illness. Now, you may have heard of cystic fibrosis, but you may not know what it is. So I wanted to give you a little bit of context there very quickly before we get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. CF is a genetic condition, and we are born with it. And the main symptoms are that our lungs are often filled with thick, sticky mucus that provides an incredible environment for virulent bacteria to give us bronchitis, pneumonia, and repeated lung injury. So unfortunately, the illness can lead to lung failure, which means some folks unfortunately pass away at an early age, and some may need a lung transplant, which isn't a cure, but can extend life a bit. So the median age of death of someone with CF in the US in 2022 was around 33 or 34 years old. And as I may have mentioned, only about 40,000 people in the US have CF, and about 100,000 worldwide suffer with the illness. Gunnar and I were very fortunate at the end of 2019 to receive a fantastic medication that has helped our health tremendously. Not a cure, but goodness, it is really, really incredible. It's called TRIKAFTA. It's made by Vertex Pharmaceuticals. About 90% of people with CF can benefit from this medication, and about 10%, unfortunately, still do not. So I wanted to give you that context when we talk about our experience with CF, most importantly, Gunnar's, just so you know what we're talking about, what our lived experience is in that respect. And I can't wait for you to hear this episode with my amazing friend, Gunnar. All right, y'all. Here we go. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. My name is Amy Sylvis, your host. And oh my goodness, I don't know how to describe how much this guest means to me, but I am just thrilled to welcome Gunnar Esiason. I'm going to read his bio here really quickly, and we will get into this. So Gunnar Esiason is a cystic fibrosis and rare disease patient leader who is passionate about early stage drug development, patient empowerment, and health policy. He is the head of patient engagement at RA Capital's venture group, RA Ventures. Professionally, he developed a patient engagement platform for a medical nutrition company, built a venture philanthropy practice at the Boomer Esiason Foundation, and was the head coach of his high school alma mater's varsity hockey team. He is consulted on clinical trial development, a real-world evidence population health study, and a cystic fibrosis specific mental health and wellness screening tool. Gunnar has been the face of the fundraising efforts for the Boomer Esiason Foundation, which has yielded more than $160 million, raised again for the fight against CF since he was diagnosed with the disease in 1993. His blog has amassed nearly 1 million page views since 2015. His podcast, The State of Health, is available on all streaming platforms. In 2019, Gunnar delivered the pre-commencement address at the St. Louis University School of Medicine commencement exercises. During the coronavirus pandemic, Gunnar was a leading voice for equitable vaccine access for people with underlying health conditions. Gunnar holds an MBA from the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth, where he was a Wilson Scholar and received the Julia Stell Award, an MPH from Dartmouth Institute of Public Health and Clinical Practice, and a BA from Boston College. His health policy opinions have been featured in the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, The Hill, and Stat News. Gunnar, thank you so much for joining us today. That is quite the bio. I'm so impressed by you. Always.
Thanks, Amy, for having me on. And it sounds like I probably need to shorten that bio a little bit, but I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, given your story, and we're going to get into it, I wanted to read all of it and let the listeners really hear all of it because it's nothing short of incredible. I know you've heard this your whole life, but I don't mind doting on you. And every sentence of that bio is so meaningful to me in many ways, and I want other people to know about it. So would love to start off here. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself. You know that this podcast is all about abundant living, which maybe historically hasn't been associated with living with cystic fibrosis, has it?
No, I'm happy to get into it. And it's funny you say that because I was actually just talking with someone with CF a couple hours ago about a project they were pitching. And she's younger with CF, and she like the way she entered the call and described the call was, well, you and I are from very different CF generations. Are you calling me old? So
join the club, man.
So there it is. That was the first time I've ever been called an old person. So I guess that's I took it as a compliment, I guess.
Yes.
But no, I appreciate you having me on. And I think if one thing can describe who I am, it's really been I'm just Gunnar. That's it, right? And it has been our family's sort of mission to put a face to the name of cystic fibrosis, as you mentioned. And it all started back in 1993 when I was diagnosed with CF. And at the time, my dad was playing with the New York Jets. So he saw an opportunity to put a face to the name of CF. And since then, the foundation has been very successful, of course, in parallel to the National CF Foundation, as you know, in sort of changing the life course for those of us who do have CF. And it's been a wild ride, and we still have a long way to go, right? So the mission doesn't stop here.
As someone who also lives with CF, I owe an immense debt of gratitude to you, your father, your family, and the mission, because there is no question that without you all, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be thriving in my abundant life just like you are. I think it really brings us to this word called TRIKAFTA. And if it's not too personal, I'd love to hear a little bit more, maybe what your life was like before this. I don't know if you call it a miracle drug or breakthrough drug, how things have changed. I'd like to dig into that because our listeners really want to hear about your journey, if you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, of course I am. For me, my life course with cystic fibrosis was fairly typical of somebody born in the early 90s, right? My childhood was had some ups and downs, but overall, really kind of just enjoyed stable health as the standard of care for CF was reasonable during that time. But unfortunately, by the time I turned 22 or 23, and I was graduating from college, probably had few too many Miller Lights in school. I was headed towards effectively end-stage lung disease. And as a 22-year-old, that was a hard thing to go through, mostly because it was incredibly lonely. Physical illness is never fun, but it definitely brings out the worst in people, or can bring out the worst in people as they sort of have to deal with and grapple with it. But juxtaposed with that, I saw my friends moving off to this city or that city, starting their careers, doing all these things. And I was basically living like a high school kid all over again. And that was really just not fun. And what I mean by that is, I was very much reliant on my parents to support my health, because when you're living with, what was effectively nearly end-stage disease for me, getting from the bedroom to the bathroom some mornings when my symptoms were in flare was just a nightmare, right? I couldn't do it, let alone get through a normal day. I just remember from those times doing hours and hours and hours of nebulizers, of treatments, of seeing this doctor, that doctor, this thing, and the other thing. And it sort of all came to a boiling point when in the fall of 2013, so 6 months after I had graduated from college, my doctor basically said to me, we're starting to run out of options here. And it was the dramatized moment that I think a lot of people sort of associate with terminal disease. And I had this sort of moment where I was like, oh my God, is this actually happening to me? And she recommended, at that point, to consider clinical trial programs as they were coming through the pipeline. And that's when I enrolled in my first clinical trial way back almost 10 years ago now, which is crazy. It didn't work, but I learned a hell of a lot about the industry when I was in the clinical trial program. As I learned sort of how patients are treated, how patients interact with the health system, how patients interact with the drug industry, and sort of everything in between. And it was like hooked, right? Even though the trial didn't work, I wanted just more and more and more. And I think fortunately, because I was going through clinical trial programs, my health was able to basically stabilize for a period of 4 or 5 years. And I mean, I was stable at a very like uncomfortable place. I mean, I was in and out of, interventional radiology, getting PICC lines, getting antibiotics, all these things for over the course of, that 5-year period, until finally 2018 rolled around. I was offered an opportunity to enroll in the trial that led to the drug that you call TRIKAFTA. And within 12 hours of dosing, I knew I wasn't on the placebo, right? Like my mucus started changing. 3 days later, my cough went away. And then a week later, I could take a deep breath for the first time in my life. And it happened so fast that I'm not sure I'll ever feel a feeling like that quite ever again. And then, sort of fast forward 6 months from then, my girlfriend at the time, Darcy, my now wife, looked at me and she said, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And I had never considered it, right? I was 20 years old and I had never considered what I wanted to do the rest of my life.
Oh, I promised myself I wouldn't tear up, but yeah, I'm just picturing myself, Gunnar, I think all of us can reflect back at 22, 23 years old and having, life open up to us, right? After we graduate college, it's time to get a job maybe of our dreams or start that, maybe move out on our own, start to date and really explore and understand who we are. Yet you're stuck. I mean, albeit you've got an amazing family. But still at home, still dependent at an adult age on your parents. And this concept of, of just probably not having much control over your life and not really knowing what the future held. Fast forward to the amazing Darcy, who I know, as well, your now wife, asking you, hey, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? What a question. So take us to that next part. Would you mind describing how you thought through that?
I think it was a crazy conversation, mostly because we were stuck in traffic on the New Jersey Turnpike. And if any of your listeners know about anything about the Turnpike, they know that's not exactly like the place you want to have an existential moment. But there we were, and it was a hard, challenging question. I mean, it was a daunting question, right?
Yeah.
Like I had up to that point, I had basically been in survival mode for the preceding 5 or 6 years, like thinking like one meal at a time, one day at a time, 1 week at a time, right? Let alone 15 years. So it just took a lot of thinking, and what had occurred to me was that through our family's foundation, through some of the things that I did with the foundation, and mainly actually, so our foundation provides scholarships to people with CF and also now their family members as the program has gotten bigger. Yeah. And for the first, sort of few years of my career, one of the things that I did to keep myself busy is I actually, handled almost all the interviewing that went into the scholarship program. So I got to meet and talk with hundreds of people with CF and their family members about their lived experiences. And I learned so much about how sort of people are left behind by the healthcare system. I mean, when you talk to someone with CF, I mean, you know how it goes. Like you just like let it all out. It's like it's like talking to someone you know for your entire life.
Exactly.
And it was such a formative part of my life that combined with sort of the access that my family's foundation provided to me to sort of leaders in the biotech industry, leaders in the pharmaceutical industry, leaders in the insurance industry, hospital systems, things like that. I just became genuinely curious about the industry. And I realized that I didn't really have technical business training. So I put my thought on, I was nudged in this direction by my in-laws, especially, and my wife, to go to business school. On my side of the family, my parents were like not super into me going to grad school. They're like, you finally have your life, go live it. Like, why do you need to go back to school? And I was like, I know I need to actually achieve something. Like I want to have a meaningful career. I'm still young enough. I'm in my 20s. Like I can parlay all this stuff that I've, learned over the last half decade into something meaningful if I just invest in myself. Like that's what I wanted to do. You actually wrote one of my recommendations to business school. So you know a lot more about me than I think you're putting on. But it was
a history.
It was an important step in my professional development and who I became because I wanted technical on sort of like hands-on training that I could parlay with sort of a lot of the qualitative stuff and sort of awesome that I had through my family's foundation and advocacy. So that's what I wanted to do with my life. And then sort of see what happened, or see what doors it opened afterwards.
I love that. I actually didn't realize, I mean, obviously I knew about the scholarship program. I didn't realize you spent so much time, interacting. And it's so interesting that you mentioned how understanding other people's lived experience, how much you took that in. That makes perfect sense. And that relationship of like, hey, we may have never met before, but we have so much in common that other people just don't understand. there's this instant kind of credibility and being, kind of one mind in some ways, I'm imagining when you've had those interviews. And yeah, I don't know if many people would have taken the course that you did to go and get a graduate degree. I have to admit, I gave you a little pushback too. I got a little mea culpa here, but it makes so much sense about that strategy. And how much of your life did you not get to plan and strategically kind of execute prior to that? So the logic really resonates with me of, hey, I know this destination, these are the steps, and this isn't not living your life. It's actually living your life because you get to plan and have that control that I would imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that you probably craved and definitely didn't have for so long.
On the scholarship program, it's actually evolved into a place where now the foundation has since outsourced the entire scholarship program to a committee of people with CF who now conduct the entire program. So it's for people with CF, by people with CF. And I realized how much I got from it, that I wanted to make sure that as I've gotten older, as my bandwidth has decreased and I've sort of had to, spend my time doing other things.
Yeah.
And so have a lot of the foundation's employees, what better way to really make community members feel at home than talking about their CF with people who have CF. So it's been a super cool thing. It's now in its third year, and it's just been an awesome, a really awesome experience for the foundation. On sort of my strategy through life, you have to remember, I come from a very sporty family. Like my dad's a professional athlete. My mom was an athlete growing up. My sister was a big time athlete. I tried to be an athlete, but my CF got in the way. But I was also a hockey coach. So I was a hockey coach at that time when I was very sick. And I actually think that being on my feet and being a hockey coach was an important part of keeping me somewhat healthy or healthy enough to benefit from TRIKAFTA when it actually came out. So I always had a mindset of like knowing how to put pieces together or how to, sort of go from one stone to the next and sort of drive toward the goal, right? I mean, you can't be a high school hockey coach without sort of setting a goal for kids. Yeah. I miss those days dearly, but so I saw an opportunity to do it with my own life, right? I knew that I was lacking skills, I was lacking certain experiences, and I was lacking something that I had proven to myself. Like I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And that's really what set me off to grad school.
Yes. Wow. Just amazing. Have you ever thought about having multiple streams of income? Instead of relying on just one stream of income where you're trading your time for money, how would you like to free up more of your time and live a more abundant life? As a listener of the show, you're invited to attend one of our upcoming trainings where I'll give you an inside look into how you can add passive income and get all the other perks of recession-resistant real estate investing without the headaches of being a landlord. I'll also be sharing some hidden mistakes to avoid and the criteria I personally look for when evaluating potential investment opportunities. To reserve your seat for free, go to sylviscapital.com/webinar. Again, that special link to reserve your seat for free is sylviscapital.com/webinar. I look forward to seeing you on the training. And now back to the show. We'll go into kind of what your life is like now because you're post-graduation, you're working, all of that stuff. But was there kind of this sense of, okay, this is kind of the first step of testing what I'm really capable of?
There? Absolutely.
Okay. And then
absolutely. I was, when I left for school, it was like, I was filled with nerves, right? Because the last time that I had been in school, I got extremely sick, right? Yeah. I graduated college basically limping across the finish line. Yeah. And I didn't want to be trapped in sort of a gray area between thinking about like what I might be able to do and actually proving to myself that I could do it or failing, right? Like I needed a binary outcome. Yeah. And I remember being filled with like a lot of nerds when I went up there. But of course, like after 2 weeks of grad school, like especially business school, you realize it's super fun. And there was nothing to be nervous about whatsoever.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. I remember seeing one of your first Instagram posts about landing or, arriving at school. And I was just like, oh my gosh, here it go. It had so much meaning, to me, just as your friend. And I know to the CF community because that's the truth, right? I mean, there are people that watch what you do that gain tremendous insight, encouragement, inspiration, and really see you as a leader.
I mean, I've seen a number of people also do it. I'm not alone in this, right? A lot of people have also done it themselves.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people also have independently come to the realization that I came to was like, I can do stuff now, like I might as well invest in myself and become the best possible person that I can. And it's been awesome to see it. I mean, our foundation's received more graduate applications for scholarship assistance than ever before. And that's just a sign of an aging population, right? Like that's just an awesome thing.
So empowering. So I am curious, and we talked, we emailed about this just a little bit, going from not having maybe abundance in your life or this freedom to, as you mentioned, like 12 hours later, you were taking deeper breaths. You knew that you weren't on the placebo. You knew you were on this drug, and you continued to stay healthy. How much have you, when you graduated, did you plan your life in other ways? Did you feel like you trusted yourself to get married, have children, have other areas of abundance? Was it a little kind of touch and go where you were just seeing what was possible? What was that thought process?
Yeah, I mean, I think having gone through what I went through all those years ago with bad health has definitely made me somewhat risk averse. I think I definitely am a little cautious, or I know I'm cautious in certain areas. So, I mean, when it came time so my wife and I, we now have a 2-year-old. When it came time to decide to have a family, I had to convince myself that I was going to be okay, right? Like I sort of reverted back to the way that I'd always lived, where I would just consult my providers. I would consult other friends with CF who have had kids. And I wanted to just learn as much about it as I could before we jumped into it. But when I'm so glad that we did jump into it, because we had a very successful outcome. And your listeners may not know, but part of CF is that unfortunately men with CF are infertile. And you had to go through the IVF process. We had to sort of go through a bunch of different steps to actually have a successful pregnancy and then deliver a healthy baby boy. But again, like it just taught us so much about growing up, about who we were. And it's also shaped the foundation now too, right? Our foundation now provides IVF grants for people with CF who are stricken with infertility and yet want to have families. So it's like a lot of things, I think, in our lives, when we identify a place where, I benefited because of the resources that I have, or sort of the upbringing that I've had, we see it as an opportunity to give back to the CF community in a very similar way. And it's one of the things that I think we're most proud about now. And it also shows sign of progress, right? Like the foundation, my family's foundation was started by my mom and dad when they basically just wanted to keep their son alive. And now we're sort of supporting CF. We are supporting CF families in building their own families. So
incredible. And yeah, for those who don't know, pillars of our community like the CF Foundation focus on trying to find these miracle drugs, right? Trying to find ways to keep us alive, but being alive isn't enough. You and your family have done such a great job at the Boomer Esiason Foundation of supporting with scholarships and education. And now, family services, even disaster, help when people went through, various natural disasters. There are just countless ways that you all have showed up, just really outlining and illustrating that we aren't just patients, right? We deserve this full life on many ends, starting with health, but it doesn't end there. It really branches out from there.
Yeah, no, I think it's you're absolutely right. It's the kind of thing where CF creates a lot of issues for people in a lot of different ways, not just their physical health, but also other parts of their social structure, of their family structure. I mean, like having a terminal illness in the home is high stress for everyone, and everything. So the second and third order effects of that are substantial. So we're happy to play a small role in trying to reduce stress where we can. We know that there's a lot of things out there where we probably should be helping, and we sort of aim to get there eventually. But like anything else, the foundation has to grow. We gotta, if there are patient needs or community needs, like we need to learn them, right? And we need to document and demonstrate them. And again, like I go back to our scholarship program, because like that's a very clear place where patients are talking to the community members, family members, patients are talking to the foundation. And we, just bring in so much feedback through that it actually helps shape, our strategy.
Phenomenal. So I guess one of the last concepts I want to touch on, many people who are listening to this don't necessarily suffer from a terminal illness.
Hopefully not. Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll get some folks, but I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this best. There's a lot about American culture that is work, work, work. It is about the almighty dollar, scaling the corporate ladder. And not only has that been, I would imagine in your early 20s, maybe now in your early 30s, tough to do. I don't know if that's necessarily something that really drives you. Do you feel different? Let me know if that's right. Do you feel different than your peers in terms of your priorities and how you balance various aspects of your life? What are your thoughts in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, I think going to business school has probably programmed me to think a little bit more about the corporate ladder than I did in my early 20s. But the way I sort of view my job, my career, my family life, sort of my social life, everything else that's going on in my life, my health, it's all, I mean, just completely interconnected, right? And it's all about creating the best opportunities that I can for myself and my family, my friends, and also our family's foundation, especially, to continue to just grow in different ways. And I know, since starting TRIKAFTA in 2018, which is, almost 6 years ago now, like 6 years ago next month, I'm a completely different person, right? Like everyone around me knows it. My wife knows it. My family knows it. My sister knows it.
Yeah.
And it's just opened so many different doors for me, that one of the things that I think I struggle with is choosing which ones to walk through and which ones to bypass for later in life. And that's an important lesson that I've had to learn in my early 30s. And it's one that I know I'll continue to learn as I grow older.
That makes a lot of sense. Great problem to have, right?
Yeah,
Lots of opportunities and decisions. Do you mind sharing kind of maybe one of those aspects or one of those things you want to add more in your life?
Yeah, I think as we sort of settle into the suburban family life, you sort of start to see other parts of your life, turn away, right? Like, you have to grow up with your relationships, your friendships. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think I've unlocked the secret to figuring out the best way to deal with growing up. But it's been a fun experience to have, a fun sort of set of, in one case problems to have, in other cases, successes to have. And I think, especially now since I'm a dad, I spend a lot more time thinking about, how can I best set up my family for success in the future? That's sort of like my next level of goal seeking.
Love that. Makes sense. Your amazing wife, Darcy, your son, Cass. So excited for you. Wow, Gunnar, this has been really special. You and I have known each other for quite a long time, and what a cool way to talk through just how great things are for you. I know, life is life, but I've been looking forward to talking to you about this for such a long time, and now we have it documented. Just talking about all the great things that have happened in your life. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. It's the least I can do because of all the years you spent coming as a guest on my podcast back in, I guess, the old days now. So, Amy, I really appreciate it. It's always fun to talk with you. And I hope your listeners enjoy the conversation. If they want to learn more about the foundation, they can head over to esiason.org.
Thank you. I was going to ask that. And if people want to get in touch with you personally, aside from the Esiason Foundation, how can they get a hold of you?
I guess I'm on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. G17 Esiason.
Perfect. Gunnar, I wish you and Darcy and your family all the best. Thank you again so much. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that will empower you on your journey towards abundance. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us, and it helps others discover the secrets to an abundant life too. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn, Amy Sylvis. Keep striving for your goals, nurturing your relationships, and embracing the adventure that is life. Until next time, we wish you an abundantly fulfilling day.